Okay,
Okay,
but
but this
this movie?
movie? All right, welcome back, listeners, but to okay, but this movie and okay, but this movie this week. No kidding. You see what I did there? You see what I did there? You like that?
It was okay. I give it a 3 out of 10.
Okay, I'll take that. um, okay, thanks. So this week, we're launching Coppola Month or Coppola Time, we should call it.
Nice. Coppola Time.
Scopola time. Yeah, I think that's a little more apropos. But we both watched Lord of War, but this was my choice. And which Coppola is this? This stars Nicolas Cage. Not the most Coppola because he took a stage name. Did you know where he got it from?
No, tell me.
Luke Cage from the Marvel comics. You know,
That
now,
is so weird.
yeah, like apparently he
Well,
was
what was his
like,
original name? Was it a Coppola? Was he a Coppola?
yeah, he is. It's something Coppola, actually. I don't know why I don't remember. I should have looked that
Oh
up
my
and
god.
refreshed
You
my
had one
memory.
job, and it was to know the name
I'm so
of Nick
sorry,
Cage.
Nicolas
Original.
Cage. I'm so sorry. It was he used it when he was in Valley Girl. I could tell you that.
I feel like his name was Edgar.
It was probably Nicholas Coppola, to be honest. Because
No, it
like,
was
why just
Edgar.
say Edgar Nicholas Coppola? I'm so sorry, but anyways, that's who he is. That's who stars in this movie, and that's why we chose this movie. So the movie is about quite literally what the title is, the Lord of War. So it opens with honest what they call the life of a bullet. And I don't know if you thought this was as cool as I did. I thought like I felt like I was on a roller coaster. But for the listeners out there, the movie opens where you are going through the life of a bullet. So from its birth, from the precipice of its small short life, it comes out onto the racks, goes into the boxes, makes its way to, I think it's Sierra Leone is where it is, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that I thought of, so at the end of that scene, it's like the bullet goes through someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, since that sequence is called Life of a Bullet, when I looked at the trivia, that's what they called it. That's why I keep saying it for all those listeners out there. I'm not just like trying to make a reference, like that's what it's called. Well, I guess that is a
Sure.
reference, right? Is that how that works?
Yeah, it would be. It was
But
very cool. I like the fingerprint part of it where you can see like the person picking up the bullet.
yeah,
That
I
was
thought,
super cool.
and yeah, I think whoever was in charge of that cinematography, great
Yeah,
job,
for
great job.
real.
But I was thinking like the life of a bullet, like when its life ends, so does someone else's. And I'm like, man, that's kind of intense that like the life of a bullet always ends with at least two lives being taken.
I wouldn't say that. I
Well, no,
mean,
like
because you can
the
do
bullet
target
itself.
practice. Yeah, no,
Well,
I get that.
well, duh. Like obviously, this doesn't
Okay,
apply
I
to.
don't know. You weren't being specific about it.
I mean, if I, well, in this movie, I think it's very. You know what? You would have been, you would have been Yuri. You would have been the one who's like, yeah, I could sell guns. It's cool. I see how it is. No kidding.
I would probably end up like I would start out as a Yuri and then end up being the brother, Jared Leto. Where I
Vitali,
just kind of I
Vitali.
just get
Wait, how do you
super
say it
messed
again?
up.
Vitali. I watched it like a week ago.
I watched it 2 days ago and I have no idea. To me, he is Jared Leto. If you
Yeah.
get who I'm talking about.
Okay. Also, how do you know Jared Leto? Like, what do you remember him from? Like your first experience with him?
30 Seconds to Mars, the Kill music video. That
Oh,
was
thank
my first
God.
introduction.
I was really worried you were gonna say as the Joker.
What the fuck? No, that's way down the line, dude. I'm like, no, I had to go through my phase in like eighth grade of the kill. And
Okay,
the bear
same.
costume in that video is so
Oh
weird.
my
And
gosh, because it was a for like The Shining. It was supposed to be weird.
yeah, I get that. But I don't
Oh,
like The
okay.
Shining either, honestly.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, you get it.
Well, we'll talk about that later. I don't want to be angry right now. But okay, so I thought the same. I actually knew Jared Leto from Panic Room when I went through my Kristen Stewart
Yes,
phase.
yes,
But
yes.
let me go back to Lord of War. I did want to go on a little Jared Leto tangent. And is it Leto or Leto?
Leto, I
Leto.
think. I don't know. I've been saying Leto my whole life, so that would be a shock to my system personally.
Yeah, awkward. But going back to the beginning of Lord of War, the movie we're talking about.
Oh, is that what
I
we're talking
swear.
about?
I swear. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This isn't a Jared Leto podcast.
It can be. We
Possibly
rarely know.
Leto.
Or both, it depends on the day.
Yeah.
But another interesting filming thing, I don't know if you were privy to this, but when it finally opens up to Nicolas Cage's character, Yuri Orlov, he's on this pier that's shaped like a plus sign, not a T, like the cross was right in the middle. And I thought, like, wow, is this guy like literally at a crossroads? Because he was like right in the middle of it. And I thought it was like super symbolic. Did that stand out to you?
I don't remember that at all. No, it did not stand out.
It was at 3 minutes and 40. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, oh yeah, never mind. Now that you mentioned the timestamp.
Okay, yeah. Now it sticks out. But eventually, the story goes more into Nicolas Cage's character Yuri, and his family arrived at Little Odessa in New York from Ukraine, and they came because of like the USSR at the time, and it was madness and the Cold War. So they came over as an immigrant family, but like the interesting thing was that they pretended that they were Jewish, like that was their thing, right?
Yeah.
But like the dad
They even
like
had a
would,
whole restaurant that was Jewish.
yeah, and like the dad would like go to temple, and the mom was like super Catholic, and like that was always their thing. But like he always like grew up in a double life, and like having to occult
Oh,
himself, you
see,
know?
that didn't click. Not clicking.
Oh yeah, here we go. Gotcha. But yeah, so like I when I was thinking about that, I was like, he's always had to occult a part of himself and give off this different persona. And you really do see things change, and it's quite literally, it's very obvious, but things change when he sees someone actually get killed. He's like, you hear about it every day. It's different when you actually see it. And that's like where he completely changed. And it's like, what side of the gun do you want to be on? And, he chose the side where you have a little more power and control. It's interesting, like we were talking about power with and control with our last movies last week with the comic books, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's a theme that comes up because like it's such an easy like storyline.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a
I
bit
like
this is
this one
based
a
on
lot.
true stories though, so I mean, is it a storyline? No.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the character in this one was very well done. I thought the pace of this movie was well done too, but I think the character was well done in terms of just like I know what I'm good at and I'm gonna stick to it, even though it's not the most ethical thing.
Yeah, and like even how the once he started it, he instantly got his brother involved. He was like, I want to bring him up with me. I'm not going to leave my brother behind.
Right, right.
And Jared Leto was just so excited because he's like even his character Yuri is just like, your borscht sucks. Like you're not going to make it working at mom and dad's restaurant. Like please stop and like please get a life. And he's just like, and it's interesting because you see his younger brother, like he doesn't do as well with hiding things, and like he said something like that. I don't remember. He said Yuri said about like Vitaly, he's like, I don't know why he couldn't handle things as well as I could, or something along the lines of that. Like I don't know, like what when he was like on drugs and stuff. We'll get to that, listeners, by the way. uh but like you even see it early on where Vitaly's like cooking and he's drinking vodka like straight from the bottle. Like he
With
already
no
has,
hairnet.
yeah, no hairnet, first of all. Like that's probably why soup sucks. A
Straight up.
little fleur de essence de hair. I don't know.
It's
Um,
protein.
a little protein, carotene in there. Yeah. Yum. But
Some mites.
you already see that he struggles with substance abuse and just dealing with himself early on. And so you just see these two brothers in the same situation and just dealing with things very differently. And like Yuri's just very much the older brother, like, I just got to take care of this. Like, let's just go do it. This is what we have to do. I don't care what it is. Um, but so he gets into the arms dealing business, and where does he get to? Cartagena, in like the late '80s, and that's he eventually encounters Ethan Hawke's character. Ethan Hawke is in this movie, guys. Like in case
I thought he was going to be in
we
it a
mentioned
lot
that.
more, but he wasn't.
No, but he was still really good in what he did.
Yeah, he was.
um, but he played the Interpol agent, and Yuri had been like in it a little bit at this point, and enough for Interpol to be after him. And he had like the shipping containers with the potatoes. Like, oh, that was very clever, stinky potatoes. Like, no one's gonna suspect that. But then like when the Interpol walks away, the potatoes fall and the guns like it says like AK-47s or something like that. I don't remember,
Yeah,
but
no, I thought that was super good that they made his character smart too, where he knew all the legal part of it. He wasn't just running away from the cops the whole time, you know, like he knew how to work the system.
yeah, like and you see that later when he's in the Ukraine and he has like a an aircraft and guns at the same time and he's like, well, if they're going to separate but like purchasers or whatever the word is, like it's okay. And then Jack Valentine is like, "Nyeh, nyeh, nyeh. Well, Yuri, you
You're like,
suck."
it's only a matter of time now.
Yeah, but also, so this is also another big turning point in the movie. So this is like where Coke gets introduced. Dun dun dun.
Love
Oh
it.
no.
No Pepsi?
Yeah. Yeah, no Pepsi. Just nose clams. So this is like where the dealer is like, we're gonna give you this. And Yuri's like, what? I only accept money. Like I don't do this. And the guy like shot him and he was like, oh, okay, I guess I do this now. Like, and I wrote down like his quote there where he's like 12 days, 5,000 miles, and 150 grams of coke later. And like Vitaly had run to Bolivia. And like that was his journey. Because this is where his brother runs away because like he goes crazy. He likes the druggies. And this is like where because like at this point his younger brother was like not really sure like how he felt about things, right? Like this is where we
Right.
saw as a viewer like, oh, like he's not as into it as Yuri.
Yeah, well, when once he saw the kids getting mowed down, you know, like he's just
That's
like,
what it
this
was. You're
isn't.
right.
Yeah, he's like, this isn't right, you know, and that plays into what happens at the end of the movie too.
And Yuri grew up like a little differently, like, and he's the older sibling, so he felt like, well, this is how I get my money. I must do this, and he was just still he kept going. And yeah, you see Vitaly try to like deal with it through drugs,
Yeah,
and this is like when they get back to the States is when they take him to rehab, right? I think for like the first time.
I think he's kind of messed up a little bit, and then he goes to rehab and gets out, and then he's still messed up.
Yeah, that's what it is. But also, like, can we talk about the fact that, like, when he took him to rehab, like, Yuri let him take a little, like, that's the final bump before his big bump
Yeah,
in the road.
yeah,
Like, and he does it every time. And it's like, you're such an enabler. Like, why are you helping
yeah.
him?
I think he's just like, oh, I'm taking care of my brother. You know, my brother wants this, and like, here I have it for you. You know,
Yeah, but it's like, then why are you taking him to rehab?
true. Okay,
Uh,
see, I was confused in that first part because I think you're right that when he does first come back, then that's when they take him to rehab. I thought they were at a funeral with the way they were dressed and acting a little bit, to be honest with you. And Yuri was saying like, "Oh, it's for our parents," and so I was
yeah.
assuming that they were going to their funeral and something happened. But that makes a lot more sense now that it's rehab.
Well, I mean, like, in a way, his freedom died. So, I mean,
Dang.
dang, if we want to get deep, I'm totally sure. And something I neglected to mention, the director is Andrew Niccol. I'm sure that
Oh,
was
him.
the
That silly old
intention. Yeah.
thing.
Well, actually, this guy, I didn't realize he did the Truman Show, The Terminal, and Gattaca. So, I mean,
Ooh, I love Gattaca.
yeah, that's quite an impressive resume. So I can't really I can't dismiss the fool like that. Yeah, I call him fool though. But also, I kind of wanted to touch a little on like who this is based on. Because I've been talking about the movie, which is really interesting, but it's kind of cool to go into like more of like what's true and what's not. But so when I was learning that it's based off of a couple of arms dealers that came out during the Cold War and going into the Bush, the second Bush administration, I guess you could call it, and like I
Hmm.
guess you could also like time stamp this as like pre and post 9/11, like the difference and like you really just see like the difference in access to weapons and the need for weapons really like the why people need them doesn't really change but anyways um but it's based off of a couple of lives but generally off of this one man named Victor Bout who's actually Russian not Ukrainian and his moniker was the merchant of death so this is called the Lord of War but he was the merchant of
Yeah.
death
Yeah.
and in 2012 he was convicted for or sentenced for 25 years in prison something interesting that came out of this Victor guy. was the whole time, and like this was the same with Yuri's character, is that he's just a businessman. At the end of the day, he's just a businessman. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just doing business.
Yeah,
And
even his wife was a transaction, I feel like, how they met.
yeah, yeah, like, well, it was also very calculated. And like, I wonder, like, within the movie world, I don't know if that happened in real life, but I wonder within the movie world, like, does she ever find out that that's how they came together? Like, I could only imagine her reaction, like,
I
oh,
feel like she would think about it a lot more, especially since she
yeah.
leaves and everything. She's just gonna be like, well, what was real?
Yeah, I would be scared. Also, fun fact, the characters Jack Valentine and Ava Fontaine, they're named after the director's kids, Jack and Ava.
Oh,
So,
cute.
yeah, like, oh. Um,
Oh,
so that was something interesting that came up. Also, for the movie, they bought 3,000 actual Kalashnikovs, like real ones, because it was cheaper than buying the fake guns. And then the director didn't want to do this. He wanted to destroy them, but they sold a lot of them afterwards because they had such a small budget. They're like, let's make some money off of it. Um, but they bought like actual guns for it, 3,000, maybe some more.
wow, that's a lot of guns.
It could have
I'm
been
not a big gun person.
3,007 or 3,004. I don't know. But no, you're
All
not.
those guns are
Are you a little gun person?
maybe. I like those little like the little ones that are designed for women or whatever they market it as.
Oh,
Those
like
ones are cute.
the little spy guns.
Yeah,
Those
those
are tight.
ones.
Yeah, like pew pew.
Yeah, put it in your clutch.
I like a good Nerf gun.
Yeah, same. Or a squirt gun. Squirt guns are so good. Oh,
mm.
I'm
uh,
uncomfortable.
so another interesting thing was that no U.S. production companies wanted to back this movie.
Really?
And that's kind of a theme that comes up when Yuri's character gets when he gets caught at the end, and they sentence him, and the U.S. government like doesn't want to like do anything because he sold a lot of the U.S. government's gun or sold guns to the U.S. government or like different entities, and so how
Yeah.
they wanted to be very hands off. And so it's interesting that like in the movie making, even U.S. productions didn't didn't want to get involved, so they had to get foreign backed companies to give the money for the movie, which I thought was
Yeah.
really fascinating.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense though. Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't fund this story that makes it look bad here. Hmm. Like if especially like it like you have like companies like Disney, and when they use Marvel movies, like they're allowed to use military things and like actual like military vehicles, but only for like a certain amount of screen time. And like same with Top
Okay.
Gun, like they were able to use certain vehicle like military things because like it's okay to be associated with those movies. Like they're very strict about who they allow the US government entities to be associated with.
I thought it was a good movie though. It
Yeah.
like the twist of the United States government was a good one for sure. It tied into everything.
Yeah, and how he was always just like mysteriously like bailed out and just like things would just work out. But something before we forget, I almost forgot to mention one very important part when his brother dies, or gets,
Yeah.
he was killed, right?
Yeah.
Um,
He got shot crap ton of times
oh
and he
yeah,
was
yeah,
still
yeah.
alive. He got shot all up the back. He was laying on the ground. He got shot up even more and he's still not dead.
And then when he called his parents, and the mom was like, "Both my sons are dead," and it's like,
What do you do at that
what?
point? You just like think smile and hang up.
Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, and but I mean, it's kind of like everything he did led to that, and he knows it's on him. But
Yeah, he made his own bed for sure.
would he admit that?
I think he kind of came to that realization at the end that like he did do this, but he already loves his job too much. Like he's already so far deep that he's not going to change his ways. Like
Hmm.
he's like all I have is this now and I'm good at it still.
Like, what is he gonna do? Retire or like work at a gas station? Like, what do you what do you do after you're the Lord of War?
Right, and then like even then I'm like he can't keep going on with how he was living his double life because obviously it came and bit him in the ass where like his brother got killed. His wife left him. Like no matter what, like his double life was gonna get cut. Like his quote unquote normal New York life was going to blow up, you
Yeah,
know? Like he quote unquote killed that.
yeah, that Giori
You
is
know?
gone.
Exactly.
But I guess like Nicolas Cage likes to pick characters that where he's always at war with himself and always trying to change and leading a double life because in Gone in 60 Seconds, I feel like he had a life and things changed. Let's talk about your movie.
So I did in fact do Gone in 60 Seconds. And the
Ooh.
only Gone in 60 Seconds in this movie I think was Angelina Jolie's screen time. She was barely in it.
I,
I
should
remember
they
this
put her
movie
on the
completely
DVD
different.
case for sure?
Well, duh. I
They
mean, it's
used her
Angelina
image.
Jolie. You know, I mean, like, she was already a hot commodity by that time
Mm,
because she just got off of Girl Interrupted.
that's
And
right.
so she was already a big name. And plus, she's super attractive. And so they're, and like, sex sells. So they're just like, plaster her on everything. And now she's an even bigger name, too. So they're just like, we have to put it on stuff.
And
But
for the listeners out there, I would also like to note that Alex says this in front of his fucking tomb. Oh, well, in front of his Tomb Raider poster, like
okay, that is an original Tomb Raider poster. I got it on eBay recently as a
bias.
birthday gift, and it was the best thing ever. Okay, because I'm just like, and it's in good condition. Like, that's a 20-year-old poster.
Little bit of Angelina Jolie bias is what I'm trying to say. Just a
Okay,
little.
hop off my nuts. That's all I had to say. But
You wouldn't
anyways,
say
gone
that to
in 60
Angelina Jolie.
seconds. Leave me alone. I have needs.
And I need Angelina.
She's good. And like I
No, she
watched an
is.
interview with her for this movie and it was like the most cringeworthy thing I've ever watched in my whole life. I gotta be honest with you. It seemed like the person who was conducting the interview was being like really flirty with her and she was just kinda like hee ha ha back and I'm just like, what is this? I wanna know facts about the
like,
movie.
oh god, they're paying me to promote this. I have to act interested.
Yeah, exactly. And then like even the guy was just like, what was it like working on set with all those guys? And she was like, you know, like she's like, they're nice.
They
Like, what
paid
the
me
hell
to
do you
be
say to
there.
that? It
I
was
was
so
paid. It
stupid.
was a job. It was chill.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, fun fact is that her part was actually written specifically for her. And
What?
she agreed to do it because she likes cars a lot. So it all went hand in hand. But
Mm.
the
You scratch
interviewer
my back,
asked,
I scratch your back.
yeah, exactly. The interviewer asked specifically is like, do you like cars as much as Nick Cage? And she's like, no. She's like, Nick is crazy
the
because Nick
only
and
person the only person who
what?
likes cars that much is Jay Leno.
Jay Leno?
Yeah. Have you heard about his car collection?
No.
Oh,
Who
oh my
talks about
God.
his car collection?
Jay Leno.
But you have to
Like,
be in the know with Jay Leno in order to know that.
are you
I
not?
feel
Like,
like
geez, okay,
well,
like, well, that was
it's
very
not
telling.
headlining news. Is all I have to say.
It was like 15 years ago. Like, it's like there's been like he has like all he collects like classic cars and he has like a fat garage. It's like a look it up later. Look it up later.
I
Google it.
will look it up and
Okay,
just
okay.
just to prove you wrong, and then I will splice in something to the podcast and be
We'll
like,
come back
okay,
next
look,
week.
here's fact checks right here.
We come back next week. So Nicolas Cage did have more cars, but
Well, you know, Nicolas Cage went bankrupt, so he had to sell a lot of his cars. He actually
I
ended
did
up,
not.
yeah, he went bankrupt hardcore,
Oh.
and then, but after this movie, he did 80% of his stunts. And so he went to driving
Oh.
school, and he really, really enjoyed the stunt driving aspect and like nice cars and stuff like that. So he ended up being a collector and a driver. And I
Okay.
read somewhere that this is not a confirmed source, just to be clear. I got it from IMDb, but I didn't see it on anything else. Is
Oh.
that uh, the car, the big one that Nicolas Cage has a fight with in this movie is called Eleanor, and it
Mm-hmm.
is a 1967 Shelby GT 500 Mustang.
Brum,
The
brum.
Mustang isn't a real Shelby Mustang. It has the engine and everything to that, but the shell of it was designed specifically for this movie. And so it wasn't technically designed by the guy who, what's his name? Carroll Shelby is the designer of Shelby cars, Mustangs. So it wasn't an actual Shelby Mustang.
It was
But
a
after,
shell bee because you said
go
it was a
home,
shell of
go home.
it. Oh,
But anyways, they made 12 versions of it. This is the number is kind of finicky because I saw 7, I saw 11, I saw 12. But there were multiple cars made, the same exact car made for design for different stunts. Like some can go from like high distances, some are for speed, some are from
oh,
like
okay.
wide shots and stuff like that. Out of all of the ones that were made, only 3 survived. uh,
Oh,
the unconfirmed source said that Nicolas Cage kept one of them, but all the other sources I was seeing was that all 3 of them are for sale, or not for sale, but they're like one is, I think there's 2 that are in private sale, and one's actually for sale right now. I didn't get the price of it, but it's in Germany, and the other one
should we
sold
get it
in.
for the podcast?
We should just
Just to
it's too
have
expensive. It's too
a
expensive.
relic.
Okay, one sold in 2013 for 1.1 million.
Oh,
The
wow.
most recent one was the 2020 sale, and it was 850,000 sold. And I'm just like,
I bet Jay Leno bought it.
maybe, maybe. I mean, people are being anonymous nowadays,
Yeah.
so. But
You don't need to know what I have.
that's what I'm saying. Like, if Nick Cage did in fact go
Yeah.
bankrupt, he had to have sold that car, and then he would get all his money back. you know.
And then he bought it 10 years later.
Oh, actually, he said that in an interview that he rebought his first car. I can't remember
Oh.
what he said what it was, but like he had his first car that was a junker. Then he like rebought it like 10 years later to like refurbish it and everything. I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Oh.
He just loves
Yeah.
cars. Is the moral of the story here?
My first
Which
car could stay where it is.
I liked my first car. My first car was a Jeep Cherokee, and then it didn't pass
Oh.
smog anymore, so I couldn't keep it. And it made me very sad. And then I went into a Ford Fusion, and I would never do a Ford ever again in my whole life.
Yeah, I got a lot to
Never
say about
again.
that.
I can't. But anyways, going back to the original point, which is this movie, Gone in 60 Seconds. So it came out in 2000. The premise of it was that Nick Cage's character Memphis, his brother gets in trouble with this like not arms dealer. I'm on Lord of War still.
I know.
He's just a warlord type of thing. Not even a warlord. He's kind of bad. Like, he's just a bad person. But he's like, I'm gonna kill your brother unless you
Yeah.
do this job for me. And Nick Cage was supposed to be like a really well known carjacker, but then he is retired, and the guy's just like, no, you're the only one who can do this job. I need 50 cars in 3 days, otherwise I'm gonna get killed, basically. And he's like, so in turn, I'm gonna kill your brother unless you do this job. And Nick is like, okay,
I
I
mean, I
guess.
guess
Like,
if I
what's my option
must.
here? And
What's behind
so
door number two?
there isn't a door two. It's the 25% non rotten tomatoes.
Dang.
It got really bad reviews because I also remember this movie differently too, where I thought it was a lot better than it was. So, like, rewatching it, I was
Angelina
like,
Jolie carried it.
I don't think so. That's what I'm saying. Like, she
For me
wasn't
as a
like,
kid, like I was like, wow, she's so cool. I thought she was so cool when I was younger.
she's still cool. I will always come back to Tomb Raider. You know, I'm
Oh my
like,
gosh.
she was cool.
She raided the
She is
tomb of your
cool.
heart,
She
dude.
did. It's fine. It's fine. But I forgot where I was going with all that. But anyways, so he like assembles his old team basically, and his brother comes in and is like, oh, I can help with my young crew, and because Nick Cage only has like 3 people on his crew, and they have such a small time frame to do all of this, they're just like, okay, well, we need all the help we can get. But Nick Cage's like, I'm gonna run the show fuck off.
Mhm.
You know, like this is my
Bye.
show. Exactly. And then so
My way or the
they
highway.
plan everything out. There's a cop that's on his ass the whole time. That he's like, "Oh, you're like my white unicorn basically of like that's the greatest regret of my cop career is that I did not put you in jail." And so he's like really on Nick Cage's ass the whole movie to be like,
Well,
"I'm
'cause
going to catch you."
Well, because for Memphis, didn't he quote like he's like, once I retired, like carjackings went down by 47% in LA, or is that where they were in LA? I don't even remember.
Yeah, they were in LA.
And he's like, it went down by 47%. Like, dang. Like, I see why they were on you. I
I
get it.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. Speaking of which, just a random fact is that in 2010 or 12, I can't remember. I think it was 12. There was a Gone in 60 Seconds gang, a real one in the UK that hijacked 38 cars, and they,
What?
yeah, but they all got caught. So are they good? But it just goes to show that this movie kind of had like an impact on people, which is funny because it came out the same year, I believe, or a year before or after of Fast and Furious, the first Fast and Furious.
I was gonna say like, when is Fast and Furious coming up?
Which another fun fact is that the cop's partner is Timothy Oliphant, and he was asked to be in Fast and Furious as Dom, which is Vin Diesel's character.
Oh, I can't imagine
But
anybody else
he
doing that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Family.
And, well, he fucked up because I mean that franchise is still going strong, and Vin Diesel's the only one that's in it
Yeah.
still,
I mean, they went
basically.
to space, man. Like, come on.
I've watched the first movie.
Oh, they didn't go to space.
Yeah, they didn't go to space in the first
Nope.
movie.
Nope.
They did not.
Did you see Tokyo Drift?
Yes, a long time
Okay,
ago.
good. Whew, okay, we can
What do you
continue.
mean? Isn't that one like known as like the worst one?
Excuse you, the best one. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I would argue that the first one's probably best all the time,
Well,
except for Shrek.
so
Shrek 2 is
we're gonna
hilarious.
sidetrack for a sec. No, the third one's the best because when they made the fourth one, then they had to backtrack and say, "Oh no, the third one went back in time." And that was like what was so controversial about it because they killed someone in the third one that showed up in the fourth one. They're like, "Oh no." Or no, this one was no, the third one occurred in the future. That's what they did. Is they changed the timeline after it came out. That's why Tokyo Drift is so special.
Why? That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
I thought Tokyo Drift is the second one,
No, it's the third
right?
one.
That's
Because
the
the
third
second
one.
one is Too Fast, Too Furious.
Wow,
Keep up.
okay. Okay. I told you I
So
didn't watch it.
okay, so last year my husband and I watched the ninth one and we rewatched all of them in order.
The ninth? How many? There's nine?
Yes.
Oh my
The
god.
Rock was in one of them. Like, come on.
I know that, and he has issues with Vin Diesel.
And Jason Statham.
Do they? He has issues with him too.
Yeah, like they couldn't have and like the issue is that like he wouldn't let him win in any fight scene. So all the fight scenes they'd like both walk away from them. Or maybe that was with Vin
Uh,
Diesel too. Like anybody who's known for having being in action movies, he like wouldn't let them win. Like, no, you can't win against me. And then they're like, well, you can't win against me. So no one ever wins their battles against each other.
that's so stupid.
I
Honestly, I
mean,
like The Rock,
yeah,
though.
I
You
mean, when
know.
your career is based in that, I mean, what else are you gonna do if you don't stand out for yourself? Who will? Who
Okay,
will?
I would argue that The Rock has expanded his
You think he
horizons
has enough
outside of.
wins?
Yeah, because I mean, he was in fucking Tooth Fairy, Tooth
He got a
Fairy,
TV show.
Jumanji. Yeah, exactly. Like he has all these things where he's not like the big tough guy, like
Yeah,
I'm good, like Fast and Furious status of just action star. He
but
has that comedy under his belt, like Moana. Okay,
oh, you're
he can
welcome.
sing. I just love The Rock.
He could
Okay, maybe
sing,
I'm
he could
biased.
dance, he can act, and he could punch. You can't talk about Gone in 60 Seconds without going into the Fast and Furious franchise. I feel like Fast and Furious is just about the racing, and this was about like stealing the cars.
Yes. And what I was looking up, it wasn't a lot of information about this movie. Like I said, there's only like two interviews with one
Oh,
with Nicolas Cage and like one with Angelina Jolie. Every website I saw had like the same exact facts over and over again. What I didn't know about this movie is that it's not a remake necessarily, but it is from the same franchise as Gone in 60 Seconds, a 1974 movie.
Oh, I didn't know
And
there was one.
apparently, with that, was that the guy, I didn't write down his name, it was like B.H. Habicki or Hablicki or something like that. He wrote and directed and starred in it. And so like it was his baby. It was basically the same premise of just stealing a whole bunch of cars, and he wanted that. And still had the Mustang. It was a different. It was like a '73 Mustang, but
Hmm.
it was kind of the same premise. And then the he came out with a second one, which kind of acted like he
Was it
was
Gone in 30 Seconds?
no, he was like playing himself, like a fictional version of himself of like the success after Gone in 60 Seconds. Like he was playing himself in a movie about the Gone in 60 Seconds
Oh.
being a movie in the movie. You know what I'm saying? And so he was just
Oh.
like, it was kind of like a documentary style type of thing. You know what
Very
I'm saying? Yeah, it
meta.
was like that. And then he had another movie after that one that was kind of a continuation of the same type of documentary style. Then he was
Good for you,
filming
man.
Gone in 60 Seconds 2 in the 80s, I believe, but he got into a stunt accident and died. And then so his wife got all of the rights to everything, the movies, the cars, the titles, all of that stuff. And so the I can't remember. I think it was like the showrunner of this one or the movie runner or whatever the hell they're called went up to the wife and was like, I really enjoyed this movie. I want to make it. And she's like, okay, it can't be like it's not
Okay.
considered a remake. It's more of a tribute, is what they called it.
Mm.
And it was like in his name, and it was like all of the same characters and stuff like that.
Even
Uh,
Angelina Jolie.
no, Angelina Jolie's is new, but it's just like the same premise, and it was just like to be in the original writer's name. And then so after the main car, the Eleanor, like I said, it was like specifically designed for this movie, but obviously there's car people out there, and the car people are like, I need this car. It is so cool. It's so slick. It is all these things. And
Yeah, it is.
but they only made like a limited production of it, so they're like, someone needs to create this. So actually, Carol Shelby was like, "Okay, I'll design it. I'll make it." And he made it, and he was marketing it as like the same one as like Gone in 60 Seconds. And he did this without the wife's permission. And then so the wife sued him. It was like, no, like we own the rights to the name Eleanor, basically, and like
You
the
take that
the
name out of your mouth.
yeah, went up and slapped him real good, and was like, "No, like this isn't yours. Like we own all of this stuff, basically." And
Like you can
so
make your little Shelby, but you can't call it Eleanor.
exactly, like it wouldn't be the exact same thing. And so she actually ended up winning that one,
Yeah.
and they stopped
Dang.
production. And so I don't think there's any around really, but like I
They
said,
put
there's
the brakes on that. Mhm. Love it.
that's hilarious, but like I don't think it's the worst movie ever at all.
No.
It's fun in terms of like, yes, there's Nicolas Cage and there's Angelina Jolie and like there's all these really nice cars.
And the like jokes and banter between the side characters is pretty funny too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they took
that's
the
all
time
true.
to give them personalities, which I really like too.
Yeah, I like that too. And but as far as like what the main focus of what the movie was, which is viewing cars, like it's more
Hmm.
about the cars and like how nice the cars are. They didn't really have a lot of footage of the cars, I would say. It's more focused on the people, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but like a lot of the stuff was just like, oh, the big car chase scene with Eleanor and all this stuff, and I watched it and I'm just like, you barely see anything. It was like
It's
going so
mostly like
fast.
close-ups of him like
Yeah, and it was very slow too. I mean, not slow. It was very short. It was just like very like it seems like it's going to be like this big epic battle between Nicolas Cage and the cops, and it wasn't like that necessarily.
felt
It
it
was
felt
just
like the
like
scene was gone in 60 seconds.
that's what I'm saying. This whole movie, Gone in 60 Seconds, was how fast Angelina Jolie was on there and how
And there it is,
fast
folks.
you
That's
see
how
the
they named the
cars.
movie. It wasn't a tribute at all.
Exactly. Like even the guy who plays the bad guy, he ends up going on to play Doctor Who, and he was saying that I was complete shit in that movie, and everyone that came up to me on the Doctor Who set was like, "You were shit and Gone in 60 Seconds." And he's like, "Oh my
Wow,
god, I was.
thanks,
You're so right."
guys.
No, he was like, "You're right, I was." It was so
Whatever. I gotta
funny.
act with Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie. What'd you do?
Yeah, realistically though.
But next
But
week, I think our choices are pretty awesome.
yeah, what are they again? Remind me.
Bram Stoker's Dracula and The Virgin Suicides. We're continuing with Coppola Time.
Winona Ryder's in Dracula, right?
I don't remember. I can double check on that. But yeah, no, the Dracula is directed by Francis Ford. Oh yeah, and has Gary Oldman. That's right.
Yes. I
And
haven't seen
then
that movie.
I saw it forever ago. Came out in '92, and then The Virgin Suicides was directed by his daughter in her directorial debut. Sofia Coppola is her name. So
Yeah. That's some I would say two different type of dark.
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So folks, for the listeners out there, they're a little dark, but you guys are gonna enjoy it. So we'll continue with Coppola month. You'll be able to catch us next week, and yeah, enjoy the movie. Enjoy Dracula, dude. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Love it. Okay, bye.
Bye. See you next week.
You can listen to new episodes of Okay But This Movie every Monday at 8 a.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Anchor.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter so you can stay updated. Later,
Later,
Gators.
Gators. Some mites.